X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting, extraordinary episode of Battle of the Atom. This is the podcast every single Monday where I, Zach Jenkins, and my darling co-host Adam Reck come together and we look at three, count them, 1, 2, trace X-Men stories. And then we don't decide, we just happen to distill of all the other X-Men stories where these belong on our ever-increasing list from best to worst X-Men stories of all time. Adam, how are you doing today?
I am good, and I am very glad that I am in my own body and that I have not traded bodies with somebody else, because today we are talking about body swap X-Men stories. And just reading these made me wonder. Yeah, Freaky Fridays. And I've never really given it much thought, but I'm very glad that I never had that experience and never will, hopefully. Because I don't know. It seems like it would be very uncomfortable.
It's the weirdest trope that continues to happen in media. Because, it hasn't been a unique thing since, the 50s? Somewhere around there? But it's...
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah, it is just nuts that it keeps being this storyline that just pops up and pops up and pops up. But do you know who made it pop up?
Didn't Disney just announce they're doing another Freaky Friday? I think. I think they're doing yet another one.
I keep as far away from Disney's children/tween movie announcements as possible. So
See, I know about all this stuff because I have an 8-year-old. So, I'm hip to whatever the new project is.
See, I'm at the point where I've got a 2-year-old who is only exposed to one of two things. A, what YouTube tells him exists, which is a dangerous proposition. And 2, what we tell him exists.
There you go. That's
good. But
so
do you know why this episode? Do you know why this episode exists?
Oh, was this was a request, I'm assuming?
Yes, like everything else we do, this has been a request. This one coming from a Patreon supporter, Josh Bowers. So, Josh, thanks, bro. Did I say Bo or bro?
Well,
I did both.
His last name is Bowers. You just kind of shortened it, you know?
Yeah, Joshy Bo.
We've given you a nickname, Josh. Hope you like it.
I can't imagine he will.
He's going to love it. I promise.
Well, apparently, Joshy Bo here loves the first story on our list today, which is Ultimate Spider-Man 66 and 67, which doesn't have a title, but I think the title of the second issue is better, called Jump the Shark.
Yeah, the first issue is titled Even We Don't Believe This, which tells you a lot about what the approach to these two issues are.
Well, let's step this 1 or 2 steps back here.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, what's your relationship with the Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter Parker?
I think I've read probably the first 25 issues or so of this, and I really enjoy it, but I don't think I ever got this deep into the run. How about, I know you love this, right? This was a beloved title for you.
It's a title, that first 25 issues, whatever, 3-ish or 4 trades of it are.
Yeah.
Are something that are some of the earliest comics I remember really reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back probably 3 years and decided I should read this series from the beginning. And I just read through everything on this series. It's a good, quick read. It's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's written by Brian Michael Bendis. And the art on these 2 issues, like most of the issues in Ultimate Spider-Man, is by Mark Bagley.
Mm-hmm.
And Bagley. Did I say Bagley? Man, me and pronunciation today, just button heads.
Art by Ed Bagley Jr.
I'm sure M Bags will appreciate you calling him that.
Sorry, Mark.
Scott Hanna does inks and JD Smith does the colors on this. This is a story that Brian Michael Bendis makes a point in the recap text to say that Nick Lowe pitched to him, where the teenage Peter Parker switches bodies with the very adult Logan Wolverine of the Ultimate X-Men. And as we pointed out in, I think, every time we've touched Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Wolverine is just a creepy dude.
I'm glad you said that.
He just is, right? Well, you can't not.
Yeah, I think when we got into, we've talked about Ultimate X-Men twice now, and I think especially in the first arc, we got into, how big of a point they make Jean being of age in that story, so that it doesn't seem like Ultimate Wolverine is, statutory rape accusations flying around, perhaps. This storyline also kind of touches on some very weird things, and maybe it's just because I'm not as familiar with Ultimate Wolverine as I am with regular Wolverine, but I can't tell how old he is, and
old
switching
enough to not be trying to hook up with a 16-year-old and just saying, well, if I am in a 16-year-old's body, I'm just going to make the most of it. That part's creepy.
Yeah, because there's some weird stuff with Mary Jane. There's some stuff with some cheerleaders here, and it's uncomfortable.
I think it's important. I think it's incredibly important to note here that Ultimate Wolverine is in no way portrayed as a moral figure or someone to be looked up to in this story. He is, in fact, the villain.
Yes. I mean, the part of this that I like... Oh, big time. I mean, what I like about the Wolverine in Peter's body is the whole bit about, okay, well, Peter really wants Wolverine to go to school in his body.
Oh, he has no desire to do that.
No way am I just going to go to school. And I think that is really funny. There is something deeply funny about this storyline from the way that Bendis approaches it to, how it plays itself. But that core concept, I think, is very amusing.
Yeah, there's some skeevy moments in it, and I think part of that's intentional. I'm not sure how much of that would really fly in the year of our Lord 2018, but
the Ultimates was supposed to be edgy. You know what I mean, right? Wasn't that part of the pitch for the Ultimate Universe?
It was supposed to be
a little
updated,
more real. Okay.
And part of it I get, and frankly, Ultimate Wolverine was always just a garbage human person. He does try and murder Cyclops more than once while they're teammates and friends.
And aren't the Ultimates kind of like that too? It's the Avengers, but they're all jerks, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
What a lot of people do, in fact, miss about the Ultimates in rereading, and I believe Abraham Briesman did a really good piece for Vulture about this, is that the Ultimates weren't supposed to be 100% taken at face value. This is what heroes should be. They are, in fact, a critique of post 9/11 America and the attitudes therefore. I think as time has moved away from that moment, that has not become as apparent. They aren't necessarily supposed to be taken at face value. Mark Millar has done a lot of questionable to bad stuff in his career and stuff that I don't want to read again. But he wasn't just straight saying, "Oh no, these are what good guys look like now, everyone." So
that's definitely true. I think what does pay off here is the body confusion humor that is happening with both of them.
Doesn't Peter rip off a car door or something? Or I guess,
yeah. There's all this stuff about Peter's hands being sticky and Wolverine not knowing how to deal with it. Peter and Wolverine's body is constantly either stabbing himself or chopping off a telephone. I think that's the stuff that is just goofy and funny and slapstick that works really well here.
Well, I think what works the best and what probably sums up this story the best is the title page to issue 67, the second issue of this, where Brian Michael Bendis is putting his editor in a chokehold and saying, "This was a bad idea. Why did you make me do this? This is ridiculous. Even I can't milk 6 issues out of it."
Yeah, this is going to be a quick one. We're just going to get in and out here. Applause to Bagley, because I think, a big part of why this works is because his art is great. Yeah. It really pairs well with this writing style. And I think that part of the story is really good. It fits with the comedy of the series.
What I think M. Bags does really well here is the body language, because there is a very specific difference between his Spider-Man when Peter's in that body versus when Logan is in that body, and vice versa. There is the whole George Reeves Superman Clark Kent thing where, yes, you get that it's the same person, but he treats it so much differently that you can immediately see a difference. It's very well done. There's a reason why Mark is one of the best in the business, because he's good.
Yeah, he's really good. All right. So I think that's pretty much all we have to say about this, right? I mean, it's not like there's a lot of depth or, commentary.
It's a nothing 2 issues.
Fine.
It's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we rank it?
Oh, geez. I've read it. I don't know that I'm going to, jump back and really get excited about reading it again, but it's well done. It does have that little bit of skeevy factor with the Ultimate Wolverine, but nothing that is, ruining the experience for me. So I don't know.
Is it better or worse than Ecstatic's Back from the Dead / Die Another Day?
That's kind of tough. I mean, I feel like at least that story was definitely trying to push an envelope a lot more. And then I think we both agreed that was unsuccessful in the way that it was, trying to actually pull that off. This is, I think for the most part, this is pretty successful. It does exactly what it sets out to do and tell a goofy story. I think it does it successfully. Below that, we have Spidey and the X-Men, which I think this is more successful than that too. I don't know that I think this is more successful than the Juggernaut story from Silver Age X-Men, though.
What do you Juggernaut think? Story is pretty good. Like as far as Silver Age, Silver Age X-Men goes, that one is near the top of the list. So I think that's a fair spot to throw it, because I think the big differentiating feature between this and that Ecstatic story is that this does understand exactly how much plot it has and says we're not going to do it. Oh, by the way, we didn't mention this. They switched bodies because Wolverine was being creepy to Jean Grey, and she said, "I'm just going to put you the place where you least want to be."
Yeah, it does hinge on the fact that Wolverine is being sexually creepy and he needs to be punished for it. Unfortunately, that leads to him being sexually creepy to other characters, but
Ultimate Wolverine's going to Ultimate Wolverine, and this Ultimate Spider-Man story is going to be the new number 63 on our list. So that's fun. Next up, we have...
What's fun?
We have another silly story, a spiritual sequel to this. This is All New Wolverine, Annual Number 1, written by Tom Taylor, with art by Marcio Takara, and colors by Matt Loops. This is a fun story. I like it. I like it a lot.
This is so much fun.
I like it from the...
Me too. And I think
from the Reservoir Dogs cover on the front to everything inside. It's just great. This is a story where Laura Kitty, Wolverine, Gabby, Honey Badger, Jonathan, a Wolverine, and Spider-Gwen Stacy team up. Wolverine and Spider-Gwen body swap. And they have to have those kind of fun adventures. And it's a fun adventure.
Oh, it's so silly. It's pretty much the same exact premise as what we were just describing, except
and
different
less
characters.
Creepy.
Yeah. I like this a lot, though.
Yeah, it's really good. So the whole premise of it is that Spider-Gwen and Wolverine switch bodies. Only Spider-Gwen is in Earth 65, the Spider-Gweniverse, and Wolverine is in regular Wolverine world.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of have to figure out how to switch back bodies. It turns out the Hornet, who was someone who took over one of Spider-Man's secret identities when Spider-Man had secret identities, got murdered by Wolverine, as many people do. And the Hornet's niece, I think? I want to say niece. That sounds right. Close enough that the death would impact them, but not close enough that it would ruin their lives. She decides to become a new Hornet and switch Wolverine's bodies, except for Wolverine. It's the wrong Wolverine, and everything gets all messed up. But it's fun. Spider-Gwen continues what I think is a great Spider-Gwen trope, where she envisions Spider-Ham. But instead, instead of being regular Spider-Ham, it's Wolverhampton, which they specify is a bad joke about a town in England because it's the only pun she can think of.
Oh, there's so much little detail work like that throughout here. I think we were just complimenting Bagley on his character work and the acting that he's doing and his drawing. And Takara here is doing does an amazing job with casting the characters swapped into each other's bodies and their language, the way they sit, the way they interact. Just the first couple of pages where they're figuring out that they're in each other's bodies are just very, very funny. Even if you take away all the dialogue and you just watch the panels, seeing Laura try and jump out her window and shoot a web and then fly into a car, and then have Gwen Stacy backing up as drummer for the Mary Janes and throw the drumsticks through the snare. I mean, it's just very good physical comedy. And it works really well, even if like this bit with the Hornet is just a way to explain the story.
It does.
It makes for a very, very fun
We also
one-shot.
in this issue get Spider-Gwen in Wolverine's body, stabbing herself in the head, which is a great beat. She's just so ready for the fight, and then she snicked, and it goes through her skull. And then Wolverine in Spider-Gwen's body has to we gotta remove the claws so her brain can heal, so she can be alive. We can't deal with this. What are you thinking? You have knives in your arms. Don't do that.
Yeah, they kind of have to teach each other how to use each other's powers. Laura in Spider-Gwen's body is trying to throw herself as a body shield. And, they have to remind each other that, Spider-Gwen's body isn't invulnerable. Use your web here. So I like that there's that dialogue between the two characters to try and figure out what to do and
Gabby's
how to solve
great
the problem.
in this. Jonathan, the Wolverine, is great in this. This is a good, fun issue of All New Wolverine. What I would say, and we don't have any other All New Wolverine on this list, but this isn't among my favorite things in All New Wolverine. What it does do well, though, is emphasize how good Tom Taylor was and continues to be at these fun little one-shots that express a little bit about the characters, let the characters just have an enjoyable superhero adventure and clean themselves up in one issue. He does that pretty much between every arc on his run, because half of the arcs have been grim, dark, and very sad. And they need that levity.
Yeah, I was gonna say between like this and the Squirrel Girl issue where we actually got introduced to Jonathan, or there's a recent issue involving Deadpool that was just I mean, they're just delightful, fun little one issue romps. And they are set between these very, very dark explorations of Laura's past or something else that's going on with this, with the characters. It just shows what kind of a range this book has. I think it's been announced by now that X-23 is returning as the name for all new Wolverine, and that Tom Taylor's obviously staying on with X-Men Red, but this series is ending. And I think it's reasonable to be sad about that. It's a great series.
I do. I would say that I like the creative team between the X-23 book. I like what they have pitched about it, because what the struggle to me is, it seems like a book by its cover kind of issue, because Mariko Tamaki and Juan Cabal, who are taking over this book, they've done interviews about this initially, and it sounds like a good continuation of what Tom Taylor has been doing, and not eliminating the amazing development he's done with his character that has turned Laura from a character I couldn't care less about, in all honesty. Like her solo stuff, when we get to it, it doesn't hit me where I live, guys. It really doesn't.
Okay.
To a character I really, really like. And I feel like that's going to continue. Oh, yeah. I don't like how they're branding it. I don't like how they are, just the entire package of it. I don't like. I feel like we're going to get some really good and surprising insides to it. So I don't want to wholesale, say this book's worthless. But I am very apprehensive about it, because Tom Taylor and team have done such a fabulous job with All New Wolverine.
It's hard to follow up a really good run. And obviously people are going to be apprehensive when it looks like either costume designs or, by reverting back to the name X-23 seems like it's regressive. And, we'll see what happens. Obviously we've got some very talented people jumping onto the book. So, we'll just have to play it by ear and see how it goes.
Yeah. And just to remind everyone, we do live in the past. Like, this is being recorded like 3 weeks before it's going to go up. So maybe there's been something to happen to change one of our opinions. And what I'm saying is, don't complain to me on Twitter about it. That's all.
You guys, you're such meanies.
You guys are so mean. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
Oh.
No, it's great.
I think we're keeping a pretty open mind here, Anyway, so I love this annual. I have it in a floppy. I reread it occasionally because it's really fun. I really like Marcio's artwork in general. I like reading his stuff. So where would you like to put this?
So I'm flipping through. We've got a couple of good one shots on here. One place I'm looking right now is Uncanny X-Men 143, the Demon Christmas issue. How do you feel about that compared to this one?
I think that's probably a more classic issue. I think that's probably better because, it's still Claremont and Byrne team up, and it's a classic Kitty story. There's some rumors that we may even get a Bendis penned movie based on that particular issue. I mean, I don't know what that project is.
Well, I don't think there's any X-Men movies coming out in the near future, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. At the time we're recording this, it's only a couple days after they announced that they're pushing back New Mutants by more than a year now. And they're pushing Dark Phoenix into next year too. So, wow. Are we ever going to see these movies? I don't know.
So. I really do want to see them.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that New Mutants movie, man. I'm there. But now we got to wait a lot longer. Anyway, I think Uncanny 143 is probably better than this. Do you like this better than the Santa Claus story?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think I do.
Santa Claus story.
I think I like this better.
I know I like this better than the story that's right below this at number 46, The Last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier, because I think this gets in, gets out, does its job. It's kind of forgetful. Like this isn't the best part of Taylor's All New Wolverine. I don't even think it's in top 3 stories so far, and that run still has an entire other arc to go through that I'm very excited about. But I do like this story. This is still good.
Yeah, I really enjoy the artwork here. I like the team up. I like these little interstitial issues that he does that are just fun and have a little bit of silliness about them. So I'll leave it up to you whether you want to put it above Santa, because I know you hold Santa in high esteem,
That
as I
Santa
do.
issue does have Dave Cockrum art. It's pretty
Mhm.
good, but I'm going to give Spider Gwen the edge. It's going to go right above it. I think is the
Okay.
right place.
All
All
right.
new
There we go.
Wolverine annual #1, the new number 45 on our growing and growing and growing list of every X-Men story ever. We got
Yeah.
one left.
And we still have one more body
We
swap
do.
today. Yeah. This
We
is a
have
weird
Freaky
one.
Friday'd so many times in X-Men. We could have done several more. Heck, do you know how many body swap stories we could have done just starring this character?
Probably more than a few. Yeah.
Like we could fill an episode for sure. But I think this is one of the more interesting uses of body swaps stories, especially uses with long-term ramifications,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is an interesting way of doing it. This is Uncanny X-Men 314 Early Frost.
Yeah.
It was written by Scott Lobdell with pencils by Lee Weeks and inks by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Mm-hmm.
And Busaledo does the colors for it. Busaledo, some sort of name that I'm pronouncing poorly. Anyway,
Want me to give it a shot?
I like this.
Let's see. I don't have it here. Hold on a sec. Who's the colorist? Buccellato?
Buccellato.
Am I
That's
doing
right.
that right? Yeah. Does that
I
sound
mean,
right?
like I did it wrong 4 or 5 times, so I think you did it wrong also.
I don't know. I just find this issue fascinating on multiple levels. I like that there is this real attempt here to try to tie together some of the very, very, I'm going to say weak character and plot decisions that were made during the Portatio run. Not that there's not merit in those issues. Obviously Bishop is clearly a fave of mine. But this issue tries to reconcile some of the things that came right out of the quote unquote X-Men Gold launch. And I think it does a pretty good job of it. Because here we have Emma possessing Bobby's body and essentially going on a rampage to try and come to some kind of resolution about Fitzroy killing the Hellions.
Yeah.
It's good.
This is one of Scott Lobdell's smartest stories. This
Mm-hmm.
really gets into Emma, who as a character, we think of her as someone with a lot of depth and a lot of black and white. This is the first seeds of that. We've only ever seen her as the evil sex queen of the Hellfire Club and the evil principal of the Hellions. That's been her role in X-Men up to this point in 1994. She's been in a coma for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is such an interesting way to view Emma because you finally start to see that she has a facet to her that we have not been exposed to, that we might have used to see her as the evil version of Charles Xavier's with her evil New Mutants, but she cared about those kids. She cared about that school.
Yeah.
And it's
if you look at Xavier and the New Mutants as like Gem and the Holograms, White Queen is the Misfits, and here we actually get to start to see the depth behind that relationship. The other thing we get here, which is really interesting, and you were talking about ramifications for later, is that because Emma is in Bobby's body, she starts to use his powers in ways that Bobby has never thought to. And we start to realize that Iceman could be something much, much more powerful than what we have seen up until this point, and which, I think Bendis really ran with in his run. So I like that we get a little bit of an exploration as to that as well. It's fascinating.
We do. And to no fault of this stories, because I think it's an incredibly interesting hook. That is an aspect of Bobby that I think has led to some weird character development over the last, let's say, 10 years, because you for a while had, okay, Bobby has all this potential, but
right,
the next story that you tell is, well, Bobby reaches his potential. And I think it was very smart of Cena Grace that he ended his run. While Bobby was better at being Iceman than he was previously, he wasn't the ice god. He was just more comfortable with where he was at. He was more okay with, hey, maybe if I don't reach my full potential, that's fine as long as I'm happy with myself. As long as I'm okay with me. And I think that whole Bobby could, freeze the entire world thing. I think it has a lot of merit and it has a lot of ability for some cool stories, but it also has ability for a lot of really annoying message board fights and a lot of regression, like you get with Bobby's counterpart on the Fantastic Four, the Human Torch. Every single Johnny Storm story is Johnny's irresponsible. Johnny learns how to be responsible. Johnny's irresponsible again. Johnny learns how to be responsible again. And we've done it for 50 years. And this Iceman thing has the potential and has in the past been that.
Yeah.
That's a rant.
No, I'm glad you went on it because, it's one of those character things where, you can start to see potential, but when you superpower a character up enough, where they can literally just be this omnipotent God thing, it's sort of like the paradox with Superman as to, all right, well, what do you throw up against him? Because what makes it interesting? What makes it an actual conflict if he's so superpowered that nothing can hurt him? I definitely appreciate where you're coming from. I think another thing that really makes me like this issue, and this is just my own personal bias here, is that we get a really good Bishop and Jubilee scene with the Danger Room, and we get a little scene about Bishop's sister Shard.
And is this the first time we see Shard?
I think it is. I believe it is. And I love Sienkiewicz's inks here over Lee. Lee Weeks is doing a great job with the storytelling here, but I love Sienkiewicz's inks. He pops up a couple times in this era, inking over Kubert in some places, and here he's inking over Weeks. I just really like the artwork here, and I like this interaction.
It's a testament to how freaking good Bill Sienkiewicz is that I can tell when he's the inker. Like, inking is an underrated skill in comics, underrated to the point that I won't even claim to know necessarily what an inker always brings to a table and what an inker's decision was versus a colorist versus the penciler. Like, I'm not gifted enough in art to tell you who did what where. I can tell you when Sienkiewicz brought something. And that's not to diminish Lee Weeks, because Lee Weeks is an all-star, fabulous artist in his own right. And he does very well in this issue, especially with stuff like the redesign of Bobby that Emma does. Which, fun fact about that redesign. Do you know the only reason they did it?
I do not.
Because the Toy Biz people thought Bobby needed a new toy.
Oh my God.
They thought he needed a new toy. So what they did, and I don't know if this was Lee Weeks who actually did the design or if it was Joe Matt or somebody. I know my mind is a little woozy on that. But they said, well, let's just do a Bobby redesign that they're just not going to make into a toy. Let's just do that. Let's say we've got 90s X-Men money. We can do what we want.
That's so funny.
And now you can definitely go and buy the toy of Emma Bobby.
That's so cool. I didn't know that, but that makes sense with the Toy Biz stuff that was going on back then.
Yeah. If there's one downside of this being a body swap issue, and I don't even think this is a downside of this issue as a whole. I think just in comparison to the other stories that we're doing, this isn't really a Bobby story. This is a story that Lobdell uses later to inform Bobby's character, especially in some of the road trip stuff that him and Rogue go on.
Right. Yeah, this is a possession story as opposed to a swap.
Yes.
I also want to note real quick that I think this also does a very good job of of seeding the very earliest hints of Generation X, because Banshee
Yes.
is involved in this particular issue as well. And, it starts what is that friendly yet adversarial relationship that he has with Emma. So I like that that's popping up here as well.
Well, when did they start promoting Gen X? Because that was the first X book since the 92 relaunch. So I know they did a lot. This issue came out in July, and I know that there was a comic that came out specifically for, I think it was SDCC.
Uh-huh.
And that was the only place you could get it for the longest time. They reprinted it in I think it was a thing called X-Men Rarities in the later 90s. But it was like the first issue quotes of Generation X. And that had to be around, I guess this would have been a couple months beforehand.
It is,
but
because
they knew it was coming.
This is 314, and Fowling's Covenant starts in 316. So, we're right on the verge of it, but I do like that it's in there. I like that it's not something that happens suddenly.
It feels like a real development.
Yeah, it does. It feels it feels organic. So where would you rank this one?
So I'm looking around. I like this story a lot.
I do
too. The more I remember, it's pretty darn good. Yeah. I think it's definitely better than X-Force 19 through 24 Assault on Greymalkin, which is at 31 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's better than Generation X Volume 1 through 3, which is at number 15 right now. So that gives us a good area of the list to mess with. What are your thoughts on it compared to, I'm going to say something that's going to make a lot of people mad, Examinations at 24.
I don't know if I would go that high. I think Examinations is an interesting comparison, though, because this really is sort of like a physical exploration of Emma's psyche, with what she's doing outwardly. But I don't think I like this as much as the first 6 issues of X Factor Volume 3, Giant Size X-Men number 1, and not more than Cable and Hope, or even X-Men and Alpha Flight. I think I would probably rank it right above Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix.
Yeah, that was going to be my floor right there, because I do not think Further Adventures is better than that.
No,
but I can concede pretty much all those other points. I mean, look, X-Men Alpha Flight, I know you are a bigger fan than me, but it does have that good Paul Smith art.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this has some really great art in it too. I really like all things Asgardian Wars, and I like those 2 issues. But if you want to put it higher, how high would you go?
I mean, look, I'm going to be real honest. It's already slotted in on the list as the new number 24, so I think that's where it just has to stay for eternity? Question mark.
So you put it above Examinations?
Did I say 24? I'm bad with words. I put it at 29.
Okay. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, it's right between X-Men and Alpha Flight and Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, which is a good showing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good standalone issue.
And that does it. That's 3 up, 3 down. First off, I want to again thank Josh Bowers for submitting this whole concept to us of swapping bodies. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stories there. If you want to be just like Josh or any of our Patreon supporters, you can go over to XavierFiles.com and click on the link that says support us, or just go to patreon.com/XavierFiles, which is the link I normally say to go to. And at the $2 a month level, you can get your own story just thrown on in there with your own X-Men everything, which is a real cool to do. We've got some really fun things coming. I'll tell you, the list is getting long. We've got a good backlog coming. So if you got a story you want, get it in, and we will make that happen. Beyond that, everything Xavier Files related is coming from me at XavierFiles.com, where I do weekly, what are they called? Articles about different X-Men characters. Got this podcast. Also, most excitingly, is the Xavier Files zine, which, as we're recording this, literally just came out yesterday. And
it turned out great, Zach.
I'm so happy that Like, here's the thing about the zine. Here is the real thing about the zine. I think I have stuff on like 6 pages, if that. And that's counting me writing out the credits.
Mhm.
This is not a thing that I did. This is a thing that this community of weird X-Men people who have formed over the last few years have come together, put together, and done. And it's the coolest thing to see that all in one place, in one piece. There is some fabulous work, some incredibly funny fan comics, great articles, cool pinups. It's a blast. So that is available to you on Gumroad. I'm sure I'll throw a link in the as mentioned for this episode. You can go if you want a digital copy of it. It's absolutely free. It's pay what you want, but I want you to pay $0. So go do that. You owe it to yourself. It's literally nothing to do. If you want a physical copy, right now they are still available. Essentially, I'm going to make them physically available until everything I've printed goes away, and then we'll see what demand does on some of that stuff. But that right now is available for $10. That covers printing on this nice, fancy, glossy paper, full color, getting shipped out to you. And it's really cool. I got those coming in soon. Actually, probably about when you listen to this episode, the physical zines will be sent out. So that's great.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm just really happy. I mean, for all the same reasons that you just said. Like, I love that there is this this great community, and everything that I love about zine making is totally represented by this publication. So kudos to you, Zach. It was great.
I just want to point out this publication does have multiple comic strips in it where Maggot and his Maggots Eenie and Meanie take the role of John Arbuckle in one Garfield T. Cat.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful and I love it. And I don't know why it's not something that's in the back of every X-Men.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll make some more.
Maybe. Hey. Jordan White now follows me on Twitter, so you can just like I'll say, hey Jordan, we're mutuals. Put this in every X-Men comic. I'm sure that CB Cebulski will let you do this bad joke.
Let's see if we can get away with it, right?
Speaking of Twitter, because the plugs have gone on for so long, you can find me at Xavier Files on Twitter. Adam, where can people find you online?
Well, guys, you can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy, and new pages of Bish and Jubes go up every Monday at adamrec.tumblr.com. I think by this point, when this is coming out, it'll be several weeks since Grimlock stormed into the world of the X-Men, which I'm so excited about. And I'm trying to keep under wraps, but I just keep telling people it's just going to keep getting crazier, page after page. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Next week on Battle of the Atom, we have a exciting set of stories all about the Brood. So, tune in, check it out. Till then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survive the experience.
Get it!